jet lag.
Oh, this one looks like it probably won't be very long. It looks pretty straightforward, huh?
Okay. Give it one more minute or however many
I
seconds
wasn't
are
late
left.
this time. I missed the last one. I missed so many. I got my dates mixed up.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Lindy, may I have roll call, please?
Jim, Alexia,
Present.
Carlos,
Here.
Kristen,
Present.
Lee,
Here.
Denise,
Present.
Rachel.
Present.
Thank you. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We will take an opportunity now for public comment. Public comment is welcome at the beginning and end of each meeting. These comments should be limited to matters not already on today's calendar agenda. Public comment is again welcomed after each item on the agenda, and those comments should be limited to the agendized topic. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. Is there any public comment about items not on the agenda? Do we have anyone online?
Just Brian.
Hello, Brian. Hearing none, we will move to item 5, discussion for possible action, approval of agenda for November 6, 2025. But before we approve the agenda this evening, Kathy's going to give us a little explainer so we're all on the same page. Kathy?
Yes, thank you. So Kathy Campbell for the record. Just to let you know, this is set up a little bit differently than how we've maybe done some in the past. Item number 8 is a request for a code amendment. Item number 9 relies on that code amendment. So what we would like to do, if item number 8 doesn't have, after all our discussions and everything, if that doesn't have a recommendation of approval, we would like to continue number 9 to another date. If there is a recommendation for approval, or you have enough information that you're comfortable with what you're moving forward with, then we will hear number 9. And then just so you're aware, because that code amendment has to be in place for number 9 to work, this won't be going directly to the Board of County Commissioners like number 8 would be. It needs to wait until that code amendment has an action from the board. So we were wanting to put these together because it's the same type of topic and it makes sense for you to kind of see what all this is, but there will be some lag if you're looking at further agenda items. If this does get a recommendation for approval, there will be a little bit of a lag in everything. So,
For clarity, Kathy, if this is approved, item 8, and it goes to the board, it needs to go through 2 readings.
yes.
In order for it to be approved or not approved from the board.
Right, the board has a first reading of the ordinance and then a second reading. So there is a little bit of a lag before it would go forward with them.
Thank you. Any questions from the board about the information? Any questions from the public about the new information for the agenda? Hearing none, may I ask for a motion to approve today's agenda?
Lee, I approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Thank you, Lee. May I have a second?
Carlos McGrady, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Agenda is approved. Item 6, approval of minutes from August 21st, 2025. Are there any comments from the board about the minutes from our last meeting? Or from August, excuse me, not our last meeting. Hearing none. Any comments from the public about the minutes from the August 21st meeting? May I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 21st, 2025?
I move, this is Lee, I move to approve the minutes from August 21st as written.
Thank you, Lee. May I have a second?
Carlos McGrady, I'll second.
Thank you, Carlos. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, approval of the minutes from September 4th, 2025. Same again. Any comments or edits from the board? Any comments from the public for our minutes from September 4th, 2025? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the minutes from the September 4th be approved as written.
Thank you, Lee. May I have a second?
Denise Victory, I second the motion.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. On to item 8, discussion for possible action. Zone text amendment, file 2025-057, bill number 145, board number 25-333, a request to amend the language to chapters 17.35.030 I2, heavy industrial zone, and 17.84.140 signs and billboards. The purpose of the hearing is a request to allow the land use of billboards in the I2 heavy industrial zone with a special use permit and to clarify and amend language in 17.84 signs and billboards related to location, zoning districts, and billboard size standards.
Okay, so Kathy Canfield for the record. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than how I normally talk about these. And does everybody have a copy of their staff report? I'm just going to kind of walk through the staff report because I think it makes it a little bit easier looking at some of the photographs and things that were in here. So this is an application that we received from an applicant. And as we were researching this item, they were requesting that we add the land use of billboards to be allowed in the heavy industrial zone, so the I2. And as we were researching this and looking through and going through our sign chapter, I found many clarifications that needed to be made that I think were probably my typos and mistakes to begin with. So some of the things that are in the sign ordinance are things that we're recommending to be clarified that help with this. So the I2 zoning for Storey County, we've got our Tahoe Reno Industrial Center is I2 zoning. There's areas along the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center along I-80 that are I2 zoning but are not in the Tri-Center. There's some at the Mustang exit area of the county. There's some on the very western edge of Lockwood. And we have some I2 zoning in Gold Hill and here in town, kind of down by the train, not the train depot, but the train yard and stuff. There's some I2 that's down there. So when we were looking at, when we amend the I2 zoning chapter, it would apply to all these places at first. But then we have for Gold Hill and Virginia City, we have the Comstock Historic District, and billboards are not permitted in there. So that area, those I2, any changes we would make, it would not be permitted because there's additional regulations that have to apply. The Tahoe Reno Industrial Center is the same way. They don't allow for billboards as a land use. So any of the I2 that if we change this and allow that as a land use, any of the I2 areas are not going to be permitted in the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. So where that leaves us then is there's some pieces that are along the USA Parkway that are not in the Tri-Center that are I2. There's a couple pieces that are along the Waltham Way area, Patrick exit area. There's a pet food place that's not in the Tri-Center. A lot of the older places that weren't part of the Tri-Center that were developed before the Tri-Center came along, those are still they stayed out of the Tri-Center. And then in Lockwood, if you can picture as you come down the hill, we have Rainbow Bend on one side and there's some I2 that's down the street along the river. Our code right now does allow for the land use of billboards in zoning district IC. And IC is some land that was annexed into the county maybe 10 years ago or so. And It's on the other side of the river, but it's close to I-80, and it's like the Patrick exit area too. So today, somebody, meeting all the regulations, they could potentially put a billboard in that location. So as we were thinking that, okay, well, the Tri-Center's out, Comstock area's out, looking at those locations, if you look at kind of starting on page 4, we were trying to evaluate, okay, how many parcels of land or how many places are we actually talking about that this would impact if we did this? There's other NRS regulations that say that you need to be for our non-urban area, you need to be within 660 feet of the I-80 corridor or the USA Parkway corridor. So that's in our chapter 17.84, we have a mistake in interpreting the NRS section, mostly because there's like 3 or 4 double negatives as you read through everything, so it was kind of complicated. But we have a mistake saying that it had to be beyond 660 feet when really it needed to be within 660 feet. So when you take that 660 feet into account, another layer of criteria that you have to meet, that's what some of these drawings are trying to show you is where something could happen. So like in this first one that's on the bottom of page 4, there's the potential that you could have a billboard at the very west end of Lockwood. Something like that would be within 660 feet. Nobody's proposing that for them, whether they wanted that or not, but it doesn't, it allows for something else that's there. There's another requirement in our code that you can't be closer than 2,000 feet from a residential land use or land district. So that also, some of the I-2 that's along that Menezes Way, it's along the river in Lockwood, you'd also have to measure 2,000 feet away from the Rainbow Bend subdivision, so you're really getting at the very, very west end of that area. As if you look at the next one that's at the top of page 5, that is the Mustang exit area. And as you can kind of tell from some of these distances, the I-2 is way beyond the 660 feet. So there's none of the land that's in there that's zoned I-2 would be eligible for a billboard because it's not meeting that criteria. As you go to the bottom picture on page 5, this is the area along the Patrick exit and the older part of, there's the Sierra Pacific Power Company stuff. Some of these are within 660 feet. There's a couple parcels that maybe meet that requirement. For the most part, they're too far away. And then,
I'm sorry,
Oh.
quickly, on that last picture on page 5 on the bottom, this is representing the red area that is the IC.
the ICs, yeah, that's the very tip of the IC, or the very eastern edge of that IC. And then, this is the top picture on top of page 6. This is the USA Parkway interchange. And so this area, there are a couple of parcels that are along there, along EP Minerals, that parcel itself where the actual mining and gravel activity are occurring. Those are not within the Tri-Center. So there's a potential for something that's there. The only other place that we have, which I didn't mention already, is right at the county line with Storey County and Lyon County along USA Parkway. There's 2 parcels of land down there that are probably familiar with our planning commission because they've come in to rezone this and do some parcel mapping. And this is a developer of data centers. I'm not sure if they're interested in a billboard or not. We recently had a sign that they just had for themselves that had a special use permit. So, but the potential is there. That potential is there. So then, as we were going through, seeing that this wasn't something that, we were going to open Pandora's box and we would have 1 million billboards and everything, we were kind of looking at, well, what does this area look like? For the most part, we would be expecting something along this I-80 corridor. We looked at what's already existing out there. Washoe County has 13 billboards that are between Fernley and the Vista exit, which is like the first one for Sparks. And looking at that, what we would be doing is something that would be very similar. It's not that different than, what they've been approving out there. So we felt that it met with the compatibility. It wasn't like this area was a pristine, scenic vista with no other billboards or anything that were there, so. So then when we looked at the proposed code amendments, the idea would be that a billboard itself, we felt would require a special use permit. There's a lot of criteria to go through. So we were looking at putting that under, as staff is recommending that be if we want to consider that would be a special use permit process. So we would be looking at each one of these to make sure like it's meeting any criteria that we might have for that area, that it's a good fit. And if we start on page 9, these are the different criteria. Then once we started looking at the language, here's all my typos and things that I found. So we had a discrepancy between 128 square feet. For billboards themselves, we were defining a billboard as something that was bigger than 128 square feet. At least that was always what was in my head, and that matches some of the other places in our code, especially like the definitions. 128 square feet, for your visualization, that's 4 pieces of standard size plywood. So making it less than 128 square feet is not considered a billboard. It seemed silly because I can imagine if it was 128 square feet and somebody was trying to do something, they would carve out like a little tiny corner of something. It seemed kind of silly. And how many would we get that were exactly 128 square feet? 128 over those 4 pieces of plywood, you get into billboard. Those 4 pieces of plywood are okay. So that's what we were trying to go for. And these are all corrections to try to make it clear. 128 is okay for not being considered a billboard. Anything over is a billboard and falls under those regulations. At the bottom of page 9, this section, the within 2,000 feet of, and then existing, we have the zoning districts CR, E, P, which is public, and R. So we were trying to get away, or trying to identify the zoning districts that have to do with residential. As we have in Lockwood, we have MPH, which is mobile home park, which is nearby where some I-2 and things would be. So we should have included that also. I think that was just an oversight at the time with that zoning. And then the public zoning, I don't know why that was included, because that's really not housing. I can see there might be some things that fall under our public zoning category, like a school, hospital, something like that. There may be a billboard wouldn't be appropriate, but there's other things that my opinion would be that it doesn't matter if it's over an NDOT yard, or if it's, we have railroad property here that's zoned public and it's just a railroad. And, some of these other things that having to be 2,000 feet from some of that seemed a little extreme. So what we're recommending for the language would be leaving those others, adding the mobile home park to be 2,000 feet from that, and that proposed billboards within 2,000 feet of public or a PUD could be permitted with a special use permit, and we would analyze the impacts against those if we had any of those zoning districts nearby. We included PUD, planned unit development. Many of them are all residential, but there is the potential you could have an industrial planned unit development or a commercial planned unit development. And maybe a billboard wouldn't be a big deal for that. Definitely would be for residential, and that's a residential land use, and we'd want that 2,000 square feet. But we wanted to just put that caveat in there so that we could have that flexibility to consider something if it was more of an industrial use. So page 10, that photograph just shows the IC. zoning that we have. And see, this is a case where this is an issue because this is all public zoning that goes through here, which is just land owned by the railroad. And I don't even think you could get within 660 feet of the highway and be 2,000 feet away from the public zone in this case. So that's why we're trying, I think we kind of eliminated it by default. So I think that was a mistake, that should have been there, so. Let's see, and then as far as our master plan goes, it really doesn't talk about billboards. That wasn't something that, was, and it rose to any level of a concern in any meetings we've had, any issues. So it's pretty silent on that. And again, if this was recommended to be approved just in the heavy industrial zones, that it fits with a heavy industrial type use. I mean, the industrial things. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here that has asked for that. Again, he asked for the adding the land use to the I-2 chapter. Staff is proposing all the rest of this as cleanup and making things, clarifying things a little bit more, so.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
And really quick, before we open to questions, I just wanted to ask, with the additional language you had mentioned, if in the case we were to approve it, is written in the approval, or did you add that after the fact? Because I'm having a hard time finding that.
It is the blue writing under, let's see, if you start on, what am I calling it? If you start on page,
I think we're at bottom of page 9, is that right?
right, if you start on page 2, so the number 8, proposed code text amendments.
Wait, we don't have the same page numbers.
It starts on page 7.
Okay. I
It's
see.
number 8 of the document, item 8. Each one of these shows the different code sections. The blue language is what would be added. The red language that has the line through it would be what would be deleted.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So we'll come back to that if necessary. On that note, I would like to open up to the public for any questions you may have about amending the code. Okay. Any questions from the board? None? Okay. Well, I'm glad I asked that question. So, I would like to ask for a motion for approval.
All right. In accordance with the recommendation by staff, the findings of fact under section 10.A of this report as read into the record by staff and other findings deemed appropriate by the Planning Commission, I, Planning Commissioner Storey, recommend approval of Bill number 145, ordinance number 25-333, zoning code text amendments to amend the language, chapter 17.35 I2, heavy industrial zone, and chapter 17.84, signs and billboards. The I2 industrial zone land with a special use permit and clarification language related to billboards, location, zoning, districts, and site standards in chapter 17.84, signs and billboards.
Thank you, Lee. Excuse me. And we don't need to call out specific language because it's mentioned in the approval language.
Yes, I do have some findings of fact to
Yes.
read for it.
Thank you, Kathy, please.
Do you want me to read
Yes,
those now?
please.
Okay. So the findings of fact for a motion for approval. The proposed amendment is in substantial compliance with and supports the goals and policies of the master plan. The proposed amendment will provide for land uses compatible with existing adjacent land uses and will not have detrimental impacts to the other properties in the vicinity. The proposed amendment will not negatively impact existing or planned public service or facilities and will not adversely impact the public health, safety, and welfare. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we have findings of facts, tongue twisters all day. May I have a second?
Kristen, I'll second.
Thank you, Kristen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Let us please move on to item 9 on our agenda, discussion for possible action. Special use permit, file 2025-058. The applicant requests a special use permit to construct an approximate 60-foot high billboard on land zoned I-2 heavy industrial. The proposed billboard will be a 2-sided billboard with each side approximately 1,200 square feet in area. The billboard will be located adjacent to Interstate 80, McCarran, Storey County, Nevada, assessor's parcel number APN 004-101-02.
Hello, Jessica Prager for the record. Yes, so the applicant submitted a special use permit for the construction of a billboard. The proposed billboard location will be on an I-2 zoned parcel, and it will be a 60-foot tall billboard with signs on both sides, one facing east, one facing west. Because of the location of the parcel and the proposed location of the billboard, it'll be along the I-80 corridor and USA Parkway, so visible from both of those major roadway corridors. The I-2 parcel is not located within the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. It's just outside of it, along USA Parkway. There are currently no other billboards located within Storey County, but like Kathy said, there are 13 in the area on Washoe County side of I-80. So this proposed billboard is very similar to those in the area. We just don't have any currently in Storey County. Staff feels that this is a good land use for the parcel because it appears that the parcel became landlocked with the construction of USA Parkway. The applicant was able to connect with and work with the Union Pacific Railroad Company on an access agreement to access the parcel. And because it appears that the access was eliminated and the parcel became landlocked, staff feels it's a viable use for the parcel. As it's just a billboard. I mean, it would have to be constructed, but there wouldn't be any, traffic going there. There's no one working there day to day. So staff feels it would be a viable use to use the parcel. It won't cause lots of traffic. It won't have any burden on the adjacent property owners. And the use meets the criteria of the proposed code amendment, the previous item on the agenda, as well as NRS language. And again, the applicant is here today for any questions that might be asked, and staff is recommending approval of the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so on that note, any questions from the public? Would you like to say anything, or let me ask the board if they have any questions first, and then maybe if they do, you can come up. Any questions from the board?
I have a question
I knew it.
for you.
Would you please come up to the podium and make sure to state your name for the record? Thank you.
I'm not,
My name is George Pomeroy, owner of GP Global Outdoor Advertising.
thank you. I'm not sure it is an applicable question, but being a landlocked parcel, are there going to be constraints as to how to get the construction done?
So the biggest constraints was access, and I actually have the right of entry agreement with the railroad, and it's in effect right now. I have been using it to just because I need to put signs in there for NDOT already, so they know the location of the signs. So I've been out there actively using this right of entry agreement already, so I don't foresee that to be an issue in the future. These guys were pretty easy to work with and happy to work with me.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, George. Any other questions for the applicant? Or-
Just a real quick question, because I haven't read through the whole
Please.
thing for Carlos Negretti for the record. I haven't read through the whole thing, or like, is this just a standard, what I would say, a non-illuminated billboard from, you know, like a TV screen type of deal where it's illuminated? Or it's just a regular standard billboard?
This is just a regular standard billboard. It has lights on it, and the
Yeah.
lights will be solar lights because I have a problem getting power out there.
Yep.
And most of my other signs, 90% of them, are all solar lighted. They don't have digital, so what you're referring to is a digital display.
Yeah.
And we won't be doing that. Those have big power draws and big issues out there, so we'll just bypass it. They're just one vinyl wrap that covers each side of the sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, George, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so after having heard George speak, does the public have any other questions? Possibly not, okay. Hearing none. I would like to ask for a motion for approval, and then we'll do findings of fact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In accordance with the recommendation by staff and the findings of fact under section 3.A of this report as read into the record by Storey County staff and other findings deemed appropriate by the Planning Commission and in compliance with the conditions of approval, I, Planning Commissioner Sterrett, recommend approval of special use permit 2025-058, allowing the applicant to construct an approximately 60-foot high billboard on land zoned I-2 heavy industrial. The proposed billboard will be a two-sided billboard with each side approximately 1,200 square feet in area. The billboard will be located adjacent to Interstate 80, located at 004-101-02, McCarran, Storey County, Nevada Assessors, parcel number APN 004-101-02.
Thank you, Lee. Would you like to read the findings? of fact?
Yes. Jessica Prager for the record. The findings of fact for the motion of approval. The following findings of fact are evident with regard to the requested special use permit when the recommended conditions of approval in section 4 recommended conditions of approval are applied. 1, the applicant requests a special use permit to construct an approximate 60-foot high billboard on land zoned I-2 heavy industrial. The proposed billboard will be a two-sided billboard with each side approximately 1,200 square feet in area. The billboard will be located adjacent to Interstate 80, located at 004-101-02, McCarran, Storey County, Nevada, Assessor's parcel number 004-101-02. 2, the proposed project complies with the general purpose, goals, objectives, and standards of the county master plan, this title, and any other program, map, or ordinance adopted or under consideration pursuant to official notice by the county. 3, the proposed location, size, operation, and other significant features will be compatible with and will not cause substantial negative impact on adjacent land uses or will perform a function or provide a service that is essential to the surrounding land uses, community, and neighborhood. 4, the proposed project will result in no substantial or undue adverse effect on adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, public improvement, public sites or right-of-way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare, either as they now exist or as they may in the future be developed as a result of the implementation of the provisions and policies of the county master plan, this title, and any other plans, program, map, or ordinance adopted, or under consideration pursuant to an official notice by the county or other governmental agency having jurisdiction to guide growth and development. 5, the proposed use in the proposed area will be adequately served by and will impose no undue burden on any of the improvements, facilities, utilities, or services provided by the county or other governmental agency having jurisdiction in the county. 6, the special use permit conforms to the 2024 Storey County Master Plan for the McCarran planning area in which the subject property is located. A discussion supporting this finding is provided in section 2C of the staff report, and the contents thereof are cited in an approval of this special use. 7, the conditions under the special use permit do not conflict with the minimum requirements in Storey County Code section 17.03.150 special use permit, section 17.84 signs and billboards, and section 17.35 I2 heavy industrial chapters. 8, the special use permit will not impose substantial adverse effects or safety hazards on the abutting properties or the surrounding area, and it will comply with all federal, state, and county regulations. 9, the granting of the special use permit will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, adversely affect to a material degree the health or safety of persons working in the neighborhood or area of the subject property, and will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or material injurious to property improvements in the neighborhood or area of the subject property.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any questions from the public after hearing the findings of facts? Hearing none, any questions from the board? All right, may I have a second?
Carlos Negretti, I'll second.
Thank you, Carlos. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations. All right, of course, yep. We will move on now to agenda item 10, presentation of the annual SUP update by Comstock Mining LLC, Gold Hill American Flat, special use permit holder to present its annual compliance review in accordance with the conditions of special use permit number 2000-222-A-5. And please remember to state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hello, all. Corrado DeGasperis. I'm Gold Hill, Nevada. I'm the CEO of Comstock Inc., who owns 100% of Comstock Mining LLC, which is the applicant. We typically do a reasonably brief compliance overview. It's our annual required compliance overview. They tend to be pretty brief because we haven't mined since 2016. So everything's been on sort of maintenance, care and maintenance, but it's still important that we give an update. However, due to the a lot of the new faces, in the planning commission, we thought we'd just take an extra couple minutes to give you a little bit of overview about what is happening with Comstock, both beyond and within the Comstock district. So the company actually has 3 major businesses now. I've been with the company, this is my 16th year, and previously it was just the mining activities, but we've invested in renewable metals and renewable fuels. So we have Comstock Mining, Comstock Metals, Comstock Fuels. They're literally 3 separate businesses. And a big part of the Comstock, of course, and Nevada as a whole, is silver. I'm sure many people are aware, but it's pretty remarkable with the electrification that's going on. In 2025, silver demand hit an all-time high globally. So more silver was used in the world in 2025 than previously, and it's because of all of the electrification that's going on. So a lot of silver is being used, of course, in batteries, but also solar panels, and robotics and GPUs and data centers. And so for the first time in many, many decades, about 3 years ago, The amount of silver that is being used is well in excess of how much is being mined annually. First time, like I guess 4 years ago now. And so the silver price went from the high teens to the high 20s to the high 30s. And if you haven't checked it recently, it hit $50 a few weeks ago. And the demand for these materials is growing. The government just classified silver for the first time as a critical domestic mineral, as well as copper. Just this week, I think, it was formalized. So from a Comstock perspective, we consolidated well back in 2010, 11, and 12, over 10,000 acres of property within the Comstock district. The blue land that you see are private lands and or patented mineral claims, and then the green lands that you see would be unpatented mineral claims from the BLM. So we own or control what looks like almost 12 square miles if you put a perimeter around it, with about a 6-mile contiguous mineralized trend starting up here in Virginia City and going all the way down to Highway 50. We have technical reports with gold and silver both in Storey County and in Lyon County. The green aspect of it, we just recently sold to a company called Mackey Precious Metals. We like the name very well. And they're mainly an exploration company looking to see if they can make heads or tails of a lot of the historical Comstock mine resources. They've done an incredible amount of data accumulation from the historical mines and compile that into something that seems very, very meaningful. So I think they were here a few weeks ago getting a business license. I think they're primarily an exploration company. What you see in the center is all in Storey County, and that's the Lucerne and American Flat permitted SUP area that Kayla's going to give a compliance update on. And then everything you see in blue is in Lyon County, and we have a lot of mineral resources there as well. So those are the mining assets, and that's what we're going to give the compliance update on in just a few seconds. Just to give you a quick overview of some of the other businesses, we have developed a technology that will take end-of-life solar panels and recycle and reuse 100% of the materials. If you see in the top right-hand corner, it says R2V3 certified. We're the only company in North America certified by a third party to reuse and recycle 100% of all of the materials. So we end up, as you can see in that right column where it says offtake, with clean aluminum, clean glass pearls, and then at the bottom looks like sand, like silver-rich tailings. But there's more than just silver in there. There's silver, there's certainly silicon metal, elemental silicon metal. There's tellurium, iridium, gallium. So we're getting precious metal and rare earth metals. And we get paid to take these solar panels from the major utility companies because it's an environmental liability for them. We eliminate thoroughly all of the contaminants, which are pretty much like the laminates and the plastics and the glues that you'll find in any electric product. We do it cleanly, we do it efficiently, we have no meaningful emission, and we produce the clean materials, and then we resell and they're reused as well. This operation is in existence in Silver Springs. So you see the little tiny white building in the back there. We've been running that building now for 2 years. And just this week, we got a permit, our second to last permit, hopefully the last one will come next week, for the big building that you see in front. And we'll be able to reprocess 3.3 million panels a year from one production line. Now, the crazy thing about solar panels was they were supposed to last like 25 plus years. On average, we're seeing anywhere between 13, 14, 15, 16 years. So that caught the industry off guard. Like, they didn't realize their panels were gonna be spent so quickly, and they weren't ready to handle it. What's crazy is this map shows all of the major solar panel deployments in the United States. There are 1.4 billion panels deployed. 1.4 billion. The fatter the circle, the older the panels. So guess what? California has 50% of all of the end-of-life panels that we're seeing come offline, and they've prohibited them from going into landfills. So guess where they're coming? To Nevada. So our first facility, my pointer's not working here, our first facility is going to be right here in Silver Springs, main artery from Northern California. Our second facility is going to be outside of Vegas, right here, main artery from Southern California, where we can capture these materials, cleanly repurpose, recycle them. And crazy enough, we believe if our first two facilities are running full, we would be one of the top 3 silver producers in the state of Nevada, all from recycled and renewable materials. So we're very proud of that. And then ultimately, Texas is actually the second largest deployment. It doesn't look as big, but it is because of the area, not as old. Then you have Florida, North Carolina, New England, Michigan, Minnesota is where the concentration of panels are. So ultimately, we'd like to have 7 facilities across the United States. Then we'd be the largest silver producer in the country. That's a high bar goal that we set for ourselves. But you saw that picture of the facility with the empty parking lot. It's not empty anymore. The panels are rolling in. Our customers are RWE, NextEra, Florida Light and Power, Nevada Energy, Berkshire Energy, Brookfield Energy, and ultimately Edison and PG&E. We just need to get our final permits, and then we'll start rolling them in. So this is happening right now in Silver Springs. We've been operating the smaller facility for a few years, and we haven't generated, 1 ounce of waste. Even more quickly, and not as ready, but almost as exciting, is we have a business that takes waste woody biomass, and converts half of that wood into ethanol, which, equates to about 45 or 50 gallons of low-carbon liquid fuel per ton of waste. But we crack the code on the other half of the wood, which is lignin. We call it bioleum, which is the biological equivalent to petroleum, and then we can also make finished fuels. So the difference between our technologies and others is that whereas using half the wood, people can get about 50 gallons per ton, we use all the wood and we get over 100 gallons per ton. So hopefully this is another very environmentally exciting thing. So with that, I'll turn over the presentation to Kayla to do the compliance piece, and then we'll just wrap up with a little community section.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Alm for the record. I joined Comstock about 6 months ago in this past May. The past 7 years prior to that, I worked for the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, where I was working on waste compliance and working with other facilities throughout the state to really improve their operations. So I'm excited to bring that to Comstock, where I'm working on all of our compliance, hence why I'm providing you this compliance report tonight, and also ensuring that we're meeting all the other needs really to make our operations sustainable and also for our communities around. All right, so tonight I'll be presenting an overview of our SUP compliance and also highlighting our current status and mining activities. So while we're not actively mining in this area for the past several years, we continue to maintain a full inventory of permits for the site. This image here on the left shows the original SUP area, where it's approximately 185 acres, which we later expanded in 2014 to about 1,300 acres. In the map, the teal area represents the original SUP boundary, and the darker blue area represents the new expanded area. I do want to say we remain fully compliant with all of the listed permits listed for this site here. So this slide provides a closer view of the SUP boundary. The purple outline is the overall SUP area. The orange area is our Lucerne mining area, where active mining has occurred, and we have completed and continue to perform reclamation. The green area is the American Flats area that's widely recognized as a location of our current processing systems. And the blue area is the recent 2025 Mackey sale that Corrado mentioned earlier.
Comstock has completed all administrative relations pertaining to the sale and does retain royalty interest. Mackey has not been granted any rights to operate under this SUP, so I do want to make that clear tonight. So this slide here shows an overview of the Lucerne area. We have done minimal recent work within this area of disturbance. All activity remains within the approved disturbance limits and is consistent with our concurrent reclamation requirements. So we do remain fully compliant with all of the SUP provisions. Although we are not currently mining, we have maintained compliance across all of these different regulatory parameters. So one of the SUP's key requirements is to notify the county and appropriate agencies before, during, and after any mining-related activity. At this time, we have no reportable activity near the water line that runs through our property and into Silver City. So I do want to highlight here, our prior reclamation work has received significant recognition. With over 4 years of mining, we earned 2 top awards for excellence in reclamation, along with the top safety award and federal recognition for repairing an old mine shaft and repairing the highway. We've also advanced certain reclamation efforts ahead of schedule, leading to the reduction in several reclamation bond requirements. So even though we're not actively mining, we do continue to monitor all environmental conditions, particularly the groundwater. We do report regularly to NDEP and have no issues with dust, noise, or seismic activity. So the ongoing monitoring underscores our commitment to the environmental stewardship and operational responsibility. I'll now go ahead and turn this presentation back to Corrado.
Thank you. We like it when compliance updates are boring. We also own the Gold Hill Hotel and Saloon in Gold Hill. We do not operate it. We did operate it for 3 or 4 years. We were never able to make money. But then we leased it, and better operators than us are able to make money. So it's been wonderful. There have been a tremendous amount of enhancements that have been made inside the hotel, especially from the most recent and the previous operators. The last 2 operators have really done a tremendous amount of work on the upgrades internally. It still remains a crown jewel in our opinion, you know, in terms of one of the historic and cultural landmarks of the Comstock. We're proud to say, you know, circa 1859, you know, and we'd like to think it's the oldest, or if not one of the oldest, continuously operating hotels in the state of Nevada. One of the awards that Kayla was referring to was in 2016 and 17 when we got the incredible amounts of rainfall. The road, State Route 342, failed for like the 4th time in 40 years. It seemed like every decade. And the culprit was it was built over a mine shaft. You know, and so the state of Nevada had, you know, admittedly, the Nevada Department of Transportation had put Band-Aid on it every time it would collapse. You know, throw some junks, throw some K-rails, you know, and seal it up. This time, we completely excavated the entire road. We took out 300,000 tons of old mine dumps that a road should not ever be built on. It cost us about $6 million to do that, just to tear everything out. The reason we were allowed to do that was by the county, by the state, and by the BLM, was because we had permits associated with handling and reclaiming the mercury contamination. And our leach pad had a mercury retort that captured all the mercury from the processing. Sometimes it's better lucky than good that we were in a position to do that. But then we spent another $3 million rebuilding the road, but we sealed the shaft in a way that had never been sealed before, and we moved the road off of it regardless. So that's what we got a lot of great recognition for, because, you know, it looked amazing when we were done. There's a footnote to the story. We took 300,000 tons of mercury contaminated waste materials from the old timers, and we put it on our leach pad. And over the course of about 5 or 6 months, we ended up getting about $9 million of gold and silver out of it, which we did not plan for. So we were very happy that ultimately we broke even on this restoration reclamation project. The other thing that we do every summer is we bring a dozen students from across the nation, including and especially from UNR, to a leadership program that we host for 5 weeks every summer. And I want to say that Storey County in particular is so gracious because they always allow us to bring the students here into the courthouse and give an overview of how government works. And, you know, we typically say that, you know, Storey County government works a lot better than some of the other county governments, not to disparage anybody. But the commissioners are fantastic, Alexia is fantastic, Austin is fantastic, engaging the students about how governments, you know, really work. And we do a lot of activities. In 2013, as we were getting into our mining activities, and this will be the wrap-up of the presentation, we realized that we weren't individually equipped to deal with some of the cultural assets. You know, should we come across an old mill foundation, or should we come across any structures within the district? And so Ron James was just about retiring as the SHPO, and he was consulting with us about, hey, this is what your operating procedure should be if you come across this kind of a thing, and this is what you should do. And it was a lot. You know, we were like, this is a remarkable amount of competency that we would need. And so what we did is we ended up forming a foundation that we could really enable with, historic competency and volunteers and others to be able to facilitate. But then its mission grew way beyond that. So importantly, our SUP acknowledges that we take 1% of the royalties of the mining and put it into historic restoration. That's a requirement of the SUP, which we're joyous about. Remarkably, the SUP also says that we can funnel those monies to the foundation so that the foundation can facilitate those things more independently. And the foundation is made up a board of community residents, including people like Joe Curtis and others. Anyway, 2 years into it, the Donovan Mill in Silver City was rumored to be sold and or parceled out. You know, the owner was going to sell all the pieces, and Ron James freaked out, and so the foundation bought the Donovan Mill to try to preserve it. We thought we were just being defensive, but then the foundation's volunteers and the independent activities went crazy, and we've done so much work in the district. You know, Comstock Mining alone donated almost $1 million through that dedicated royalty. But the foundation is now self-sustaining and has raised more money than even the royalties that came from the original mining concept, which are, you know, will still be in effect. And the first major restoration was the Yellow Jacket joist and chute work that sits just above the Gold Hill Hotel. I think the total amount of effort was over $150,000. However, if you look at the original structure, we marveled. We said it was Comstock magic that somehow allowed this thing to stand up even when there's 50, 60, 70 mile winds on the hill. So it was a really stressful initial thing because, you know, we didn't want to knock the thing over unintentionally, and ultimately the restoration was a huge success. It's one of our proudest moments. But the work that's being done at the Donovan Mill is exponentially more, from foundational restoration to structural restoration, to actually getting the refining retort unit back open, building new retaining walls. We reinstalled an appropriate bridge, and then crazy amounts of work on the interior. If anyone's ever visited the mill a decade ago, I mean, it was just like a junkyard. They were just dumping stuff in there. So after all the junk was cleaned out, they went into restoring some of the mills. We now have operating stamps, you know, in the mills, and it's a marvel to see it. And people come to see it. You know, we get a tremendous amount of visitation now. sometimes just individuals, sometimes large groups, sometimes events. And we even are now able to have blacksmithing. We have a forge and blacksmithing classes for people who want to learn some of the old trade. And we have lectures literally at the mill with period relevant discussions, recent one in September. We have other events as well. One that seems to be very popular is these early day gas engine and tractor shows, where a whole host of period type equipment comes in and puts on display. And these are all great, fundraisers, for it. And we're actually having a fundraiser next Saturday night, if you might be interested, at the Gold Hill Hotel. It's a nice dinner, and hopefully it'll be a great turnout for the community. So that's it in a nutshell. I know that's a little more than a compliance update, but I don't know all of you personally, only one or two. So we thought it would be a nice opportunity just to tell you a little bit more about our company.
Thank you, Corrado and Kayla.
Fantastic.
Any questions from the board for these two? Any? Quite a bit?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys.
That's fun.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Interesting.
Okay.
I didn't know
On to item 11, discussion for possible action, determination of the next planning commission meeting.
This is Kathy Campbell for the record. Right now, we're recommending December 4th. It may not happen. I don't have any item at the moment. I've potentially talked to somebody. We'll see if something happens. But so tentatively, December 4th.
Okay.
Here, 6 o'clock in the courthouse.
Okay. Any concerns from the board about that date and time?
I may have a conflict on that date.
Say again?
I may have a conflict on that date.
I have a conflict on that date myself.
All right. Carlos?
I'm good.
Okay. So I guess let's make a note, Kathy, that there may be a conflict from two of the commissioners on that date.
It may not even happen, but we'll see.
Okay, so should I make a motion to approve that as the date?
As a tentative date.
As a tentative date. All right, so may I ask for a motion to approve December 4th, 2025 as the tentative date for our next planning commission meeting here at Storey County Courthouse at 6 p.m.
This is Lee. I move that the next meeting be December 4th in the courthouse, in the courtroom on December 4th. Tentative.
Thank you, 6 p.m. Great, thank you. Okay, may I have a second?
Carlos, you ready? I'll second that.
Thanks, Carlos. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay. On to item 12, correspondence.
None.
Thank you, Lindy. Item 13, public comment. No public comment. Item 14, staff.
I just have a reminder. I think you may have received already in your emails invitations to the Storey County Holiday Party. Please know that that's open to the public, and you and your significant others are all welcome to come. They are asking to RSVP just so they have a ballpark idea of how many people they need to have refreshments and things for. So if you could RSVP, that would be helpful. We're not going to hold you to it if something happens or you bring another person or whatever, but it just gives them a ballpark idea of what's going on. Other than that, all the other projects and things that we're working on our design standards. We have a B Street right-of-way survey work that's being done, the parking study for Virginia City. We're working on some code amendment items, and I'm sure I'm missing a few others. Everything's still kind of ongoing. I don't have any results of anything yet, but we're working closely with them. The Gold Hill drainage we're working on. That one I think is coming with the Carson Water Subconservancy District. I think that one is getting closer. We're having a meeting, they're gonna show us some things, so that's the first I've seen in a little bit. So those are, everything's still kind of ongoing. I really don't expect to have results of all this stuff until January, honestly, because of the holidays and stuff. But everything else is still going, so I'm happy to answer any questions if there's anything that you're curious about.
Kathy, any questions for Kathy? No? And I think you and Lindy and Jessica are the only staff here, so we'll move on
Yeah.
to
think we're good.
item 15. Any board comments?
Nothing today?
No? Okay. Well, we're getting out of here. All right. Item 16, adjournment at 7:04.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.